When they tried to bury you, they didn't know you were a seed. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom we deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Tonight, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Eboni Watson. And I need you to understand who Eboni Watson is. This is a woman who has dedicated her life to helping people see that their pain is not the end of their story, it's the prologue to their power. Ebony understands the weight of betrayal. She knows the sting of being targeted by those who should have protected you. And she knows intimately the divine redirection that comes when you cry out to God in your darkest hour. Ebony shared with me an insight that shook me to my core, and I believe it will do the same for you. She said that betrayal by family and those in power often feels like targeted destruction, but it's frequently the divine setup for your greatest calling, revealing you as the chosen one, where crying out to God in your darkest moments transforms pain into unshakable purpose and power. Now, when I saw that, I want you to sit with that for a moment. Betrayal, targeting, destruction. These are words that many of us know too well. We've been the ones holding it all together, leading teams, raising families, carrying communities on our backs. And then, just when we think we've got it figured out, someone we trusted, someone we called family, someone in a position of power turns on us. And it feels like the end. It feels like everything we built is crumbling. But what if that moment of betrayal wasn't the end at all? What if it was the beginning of something far greater than you ever imagined? Let me take you into a story that illustrates this beautifully. In 2016, Ebony Magazine, a cultural icon for Black voices since 1945, was sold to a hedge fund. This wasn't just any sale, this was a betrayal. The legacy parent company, Johnson Publishing, handed over this treasure to powers that didn't care about its mission, its people, or its community. What followed was chaos, insurmountable debt, staff cuts, unpaid wages, accusations from the National Association of Black Journalists. By 2019, Ebony was idle, left for dead. The very institution that had amplified Black excellence for decades was targeted, sabotaged, and nearly erased. Everyone thought it was over. The lights were off. The doors were closed. The voice that had spoken truth to power for 74 years was silenced. But here's where the story shifts. Enter Junior Bridgman, a Black MBA veteran turned billionaire entrepreneur, and his daughter, Eden Bridgman Sklenar. In 2020, they acquired Ebony from bankruptcy for $14 million. dollars. They didn't just buy a magazine, they bought a mission, they bought a voice, they bought a legacy that the powers that be had tried to silence, and they brought it back to life. Eden stepped in as chairwoman, recruiting executives like Michelle Thornton Gee, who had worked at BET and CNN, and Marielle Bobo from Essence. Together, they shifted Ebony to a digital first model with quarterly print editions, formed partnerships with Bloomberg and HarperCollins, and centered everything around faith and community. By March 2021, Ebony relaunched with daily content, digital covers featuring artists like Toby Nwigwe and Lena Waithe, and a revival of the Power 100 list. They even secured Viola Davis's memoir. What looked like total destruction became a divine setup for resurrection. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Where have you been betrayed? Where have you been targeted? Maybe it was a family member who turned their back on you when you needed them most. Maybe it was a boss who undermined your work, a colleague who took credit for your ideas, or a system that was designed to keep you out. Maybe it was the church that told you to be quiet, the boardroom that told you to shrink, or the relationship that told you your softness was weakness. And in that moment, you felt like everything was falling apart. You felt like you were being destroyed. But what if that betrayal was actually God's way of redirecting you? What if the targeting you experienced was confirmation that you are anointed, that you are chosen, that you are being positioned for something far greater than the space you were in? Because here's the truth, sis. When you are chosen, when you are anointed, when you are walking in your purpose, the enemy will come for you. The powers that be will try to silence you. Even those you call family will turn on you. But that's not the end of your story. That's the beginning of your testimony. Let me tell you about Junior Bridgman's journey. This man played 12 years in the NBA, but he didn't stop there. He built over 200 Wendy's and Chili's franchises, sold them in 2016, and became a Coca Cola distributor. His journey with God, through betrayals, through setbacks, through moments when the powers that be tried to count him out, positioned him to rescue Ebony when everyone else had left it for dead. He didn't just save a magazine, he modeled for Black entrepreneurs everywhere how faith amid targeting creates generational wealth and media dominance. And then there's Michelle Thornton Gee. She inherited the chaos of Ebony's betrayal, the debt, the sabotage, the risk of total erasure. But she brought a faith driven mindset to the table. She called it a curse and a beauty. She added staff, launched digital content, formed partnerships, and transformed targeting into triumph. She didn't just rebuild a brand, she empowered Black women leaders everywhere to reclaim spaces post betrayal and amplify community voices. So here's what I want you to understand: betrayal is not the end, it's a divine redirection. When family or power players target you, it's not because you're weak, it's because you're a threat, it's because you're anointed, it's because God has something bigger for you. And the enemy knows it. So he sends betrayal to try to stop you. But if you keep calling out to God, if you keep holding faith, if you keep believing that you are the chosen one, God will turn that targeting into testimony. He will turn that pain into purpose. He will turn that destruction into your greatest calling. Now, I know some of you are sitting here thinking, but LeAnne, you don't understand. The betrayal I experienced was too deep. The targeting was too personal. The pain is too much. And I hear you, sis. I really do. But I want you to know that your pain is not wasted. Your tears are not in vain. Every moment you cried out to God in your darkest hour, He heard you. And He's been positioning you, preparing you, anointing you for this very moment. Because here's the second truth I want you to hold on to: faith fuels unbreakable strategy in your entrepreneurial journey, in your leadership, in your life. Leaning on God amid attacks builds the spiritual muscle to outlast obstacles. It turns personal trials into professional triumphs. It transforms survival mode into sacred purpose. Think about the Bridgman family. They didn't just swoop in and save Ebony on a whim. They had been building spiritual muscle for decades. They had been walking through their own betrayals, their own setbacks, their own moments of crying out to God. And when the moment came when Ebony needed saving, they were ready. They had the faith, the resources, the vision, and the spiritual muscle to step in and do what no one else could do. And that's what I want for you, sis. I want you to see that every attack you've endured, every betrayal you've survived, every moment you've cried out to God has been building your spiritual muscle. It's been preparing you for your comeback. It's been positioning you to lead, to inspire, to elevate your community in ways you never imagined. But here's the thing: you have to keep calling on God. You have to keep holding faith. You have to keep believing that you are the chosen one, even when everything around you is falling apart, because that's when the breakthrough happens. That's when the resurrection comes. That's when God reveals that what looked like destruction was actually the divine setup for your greatest calling. Now, let me bring this home with the third truth. You are the chosen one. Recognize targeting as confirmation of your anointing. Keep calling on God, and He will elevate you to lead and inspire your community. This is not just a nice idea, this is a spiritual reality. When you are chosen, when you are anointed, when you are walking in your purpose, the enemy will come for you. But that's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. That's a sign that you're on the right one. Ebony Watson reminded me of this truth, and I want to remind you of it tonight. You are not being targeted because you're weak. You're being targeted because you're powerful. You're being targeted because you're a threat to the systems that want to keep you small, to the powers that want to silence your voice, to the enemy that wants to steal your joy. But if you keep calling out to God, if you keep holding faith, if you keep believing that you are the chosen one, God will turn your targeting into testimony. He will turn your pain into power. He will turn your betrayal into your greatest breakthrough. The Bridgman family didn't just save Ebony Magazine, they showed us all what's possible when you keep calling on God, when you keep holding faith, when you keep believing that you are the chosen one. They showed us that betrayal by those in power is not the end, it's the divine setup for your greatest calling. They showed us that targeting is not a sign of weakness, it's confirmation of your anointing. So, sis, your soft girl era is not about being weak. It's about being wise enough to know that your strength comes from God, not from carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's about releasing the cape, setting boundaries without apology, resting without explanation, and embracing the healing, wholeness, and softness that you deserve. It's about recognizing that betrayal is not the end, it's the divine redirection that positions you for your greatest calling. So here's my question for you tonight. In your deepest betrayal, whether by family or powers that be, will you keep calling out to God, holding that chosen one faith until He turns your targeting into testimony? Will you journal one dark moment tonight and pray over it? Will you step boldly into the business empire, the leadership role, the sacred purpose He's prepared for you? Because the world is not waiting for you to be perfect. The world is waiting for you to be obedient. The world is waiting for you to rise from the ashes of betrayal and show them what resurrection looks like. The world is waiting for you to stop apologizing for your anointing and start walking in it with your head held high. You are the chosen one. You are anointed. You are unstoppable. And every moment of targeting, every second of pain, every tear you've cried in the dark has been building the foundation for the empire God is about to build through you. So I'm asking you tonight, will you keep calling out to God? Will you keep holding that chosen one faith? Will you step boldly into everything He's prepared for you? Because when they tried to bury you, they didn't know you were a seed. And seeds don't stay buried, they break through the soil. They reach for the light and they grow into something the world has never seen before. That's who you are. That's your testimony. That's your soft girl era. Now go out there and bloom.